Next thing I want to talk about is the extra things that you might need to make it more successful. So I laid out a bunch of stuff. First thing you might want to look around for or start saving is some containers, food containers, whatever. Some short ones. I have a tall old coffee one. Not mine. I don't drink decaf. A can of beans or something. Take the label off if you want. I just started saving them. Okay. And you can. What I use my coffee can for, I like the plasticness of it, is I put my tools in it so that they're easily handled. When you get the set, it's in a plastic bag. I personally would suggest get rid of that plastic bag because it is just annoying to try and open and close when your hands are dirty. It's a lot easier to be able to grab out of something like this. We are eventually going to make something that will hold your tools. But for now, I would suggest finding something around the house. Now, a couple things. Things with points. I don't like to damage my wood one, so I usually leave it face up. But the needle tool definitely should go face down. And I like to hang my little wire cutter right here where I can see it easily. That's just me. Next, some other things that you might have around the house already. I love a spoon. We do this technique later on called burnishing, and you can use it to like smooth your clay. It does amazing things. Also, you can scoop out a little bit of water or a little bit of glaze from somewhere. There's a technique called slipping and scoring. We have to scratch the clay up to join it to another piece of clay. And normally you guys use your needle tool. But there are tools at our clay store, like this one, and it's got a whole bunch of little points on it, and it's $5. But you can do that for free if you either go to a restaurant and grab a plastic fork, or grab a crappy fork from a drawer, get your mom's approval, a fork that no one's using anymore. So that's your silverware. I found these barbecue sticks at the dollar store for, for $1. But it's great in place of a needle tool or something like that. And then a dull pencil. Your needle tool is super sharp, and if you go to write your name with it, you have to write your name on the bottom of your projects. It tends to be such a thin line, it can get messed up when we're loading clay, different things like that, and your piece is moving. So if you could write with a nice wide dull pencil, it's much better. Or even this barbecue stick would probably write pretty well. I'm going to try and send one of these squares home with you. They are made of a board that the projects don't stick. And we have small ones for cups, things like that. We have a lot of the bigger ones. I think I have enough to send everybody one, and you can use it at home and then bring it back for me, please. But this size, if you can find some, they're really nice, handy size. These are great for projects that you're currently working on and you don't want to bend because the clay is still kind of soft. As projects begin to dry out and get harder and finished, you don't need to necessarily keep them on the board. It's more for support. But boards are a good thing. I have a board right here that is a pretty big board. Maybe you have access to something like this. This is actually just plywood, and then I covered it with an old yoga mat that was getting eaten by rats. So I cut that part away, and I'm like, perfect. It kind of cushions my projects as I'm working on them. At the Dollar Tree, I picked up sponges of different sizes. These ones are really big, almost too big for at home, but these are what we use at school. And when the period ends and we have to clean up, there's a whole system, and I'll teach it to you. But maybe a sponge. A sponge does come in your kit, so you don't necessarily have to pick one up. Maybe that little sponge is good enough for at home. Plastic bags. You definitely need plastic bags. Start saving them. I have a variety here of small, thin grocery style bags. I really like those for covering my projects, but I also like thick bags. Thick bags are what your clay is going to come in. Your clay is less likely to dry out with a thicker bag. So depending on what I need, sometimes for my projects I don't like to cover with a super thick bag because the creases go into the project when I push all the air out. But it's up to you. You got to kind of figure out what goes. So I have a whole bunch of plastic bags. You definitely are going to need that. So you should be able to find those around your house for free. I have these at school for you guys, but not enough to send everybody home. And so these are 1/4-inch sticks. We'll eventually get to them and I'll make another suggestion, but these are what I have here and at school, and they're for rolling out slabs. Another thing maybe you can pick up at the Dollar Tree or something like that is a rolling pin. And wood is great, marble tends to stick, things like that. So I'll show you some other suggestions, and if you don't want to pick one up. Another thing that we are definitely going to need is something for cleaning up. So I have some old crappy towels, ones that have holes in them, stains on them, ones that your parents' family they don't use anymore, and so we need some access to some sort of towels, old cut up shirts, things like that. You don't necessarily need this, and you don't need it right now. I have a bunch of paintbrushes. You could pick up yourself a cheap set at wherever, the Dollar Tree, Walmart, blah blah blah, that has maybe five of them in it. When we're at school, when we're glazing, we have a lot of paintbrushes, but sometimes they get really, they seem to disappear in people's lockers as they use them, or they find a favorite paintbrush. Ones that I might suggest at home is maybe something that maybe you could paint slip on with. Something, not too fancy. I have some of those cheap paint brushes that I might have used for varnish or something like that. But you don't need to get all these bigger, fancier Japanese style paintbrushes. You just can get a cheap set. So that's just something that you might think about. Personal thing for me, I don't like the way that clay dries out my hands. So every time after I get my hands cleaned up in the water, I put a little dab of lotion on. So I have some lotion here. Don't need a lot, just a little bit of a dab there. And it just kind of takes away that dry feeling that the clay for some reason seems to create on your hands. Just sucks the water out. So that's just a personal thing. You might want to grab some lotion too. So this is my workspace, and now it's time for you to go make your workspace. Start gathering those tools, start gathering the extra pieces that you can find around the house that's going to make your experience successful. And we potters are scavengers, and we love to find random things that make textures, things like this paper towel holder or roll in the middle that others throw out and we find a use for. So start scavenging and show me your workspace real soon.